So the other second place where it's very good entry as well, there was actually a tie at the end of the original vote and the deliberation of the two that stood out most was perhaps more interesting. So I'm going to turn it over to Todd here, who's going to show his application around finding potential places for urban gardens around the city property.
Yeah, my understanding is that it wasn't tied, by the way, previously for quite a while. It was 2-2 or something. So, that was my feeling exactly. This project coming up is really awesome.
Yeah, we had a good debate after all the participants left.
Did the bribes help? No.
I didn't get mine.
Oh, sorry.
Hey, there you go. You know how to make
Where's the command minus?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, that should work. Yeah, so I think what inspires everybody about open data in government is this possibility that it holds for empowering citizens to sort of take up arms and make their city better by using this insight to help connect with other people and make their neighborhoods a better place to live. But the greatest challenge isn't just opening up data, it's getting people to engage with it in useful ways. And so Brian and I, we had this interest in urban agriculture, and so we thought that we would create an app that allowed people to understand what sort of resources existed within the city in regards to vacant lots. And so we went to the database and took a look at it, and we came up with Urbs and Horto, which some of you may know is actually the city of Chicago's motto, and in Latin it means city in a garden. So what we wanted to do was create something that allowed people to see the data, share it, and also interact with it. And we'd love to have some conversations with the city moving forward as to how they could sort of back this app and use this information, the social information that we gather, to understand how to interact with the public and make these ideas actual gardens or something to effect. So it's very rudimentary at this point. We only had 12 hours, so I'm going to play around with the tabs here if I can get them just to show you basically what the functionality is. So unfortunately, here there's actually a search bar. At the moment it says Inglewood. So this search is slow. I just pulled up Inglewood already. If you zoom in, you can see at this point 25 plots. One of the barriers that we ran into is using Google's API. You can only have so many calls a day, something like 2,000, 3,000. And so when we were testing this, we immediately went past that because in Inglewood alone, I think there's over 3,000 vacant lots. So we immediately hit the limit. And so right now we just have it set narrowly at 25. And you can see that's not much at all. And they're all right there. And within the city data set, it's not just vacant lots, which is primarily our interest for this project. So for anybody who also has an interest in this sort of thing, I'd love to talk to you about how we could use this data set and take other information, perhaps narrow it down to vacant lots rather than other things it entails, which is vacant buildings or actual city-owned parking lots, and things like that. But at the moment, what you can do is you can click on any one of these. It'll basically show you an address, where this is, and how many supporters that lot has in order to affect some sort of change. The goal long term is to use OAuth and let people log into this app with Facebook or Twitter and use that as a platform to start sharing information and getting other people in the public to engage with it. And then also monitor what it is they're talking about and how it is they think that their community can affect change in space. And then again, it's applicable, I think, to reference the question about crime earlier. Studies have shown that vacant lots have a lot more crime than formerly vacant lots that have been transformed into gardens. some sort. If you go take the interest in these spaces and transform them and make them into something that's useful and something that the community is proud of, it has a measurable effect on the community. So I have maybe another handle over here. I don't know how to get it to do it.
On the left side of your window there, there's letters plus. Yeah, that should be
There. So hold up the loop here, not as many spaces, obviously, and a lot of these are, those things that we would like to try and erase from this data set, like parking lots. But again, you can see, you can click on a pin, the address shows up, click on another pin, you can see, what sort of interest there is in changing the space. And I'm sorry to say, I was kind of working hard to try and visualize this for you since it's not on my head. So it's not on my head. I just copied this and put it into Google Doc. So I sort of envision there being a stat bar to the left and showing this data in a very easy to understand, digestible way. You could see some sort of pie chart with the number of vacant lots in the neighborhood. A place like Englewood has thousands. A place like Wicker Park, many fewer. At the bottom, you can see a number or something like that. Obviously, it's very easy to share this information, so you can get people understanding what the actual metrics are. And for the social aspect of it, you have to log in. So that's very simple right there. But once you're logged in, you can start to see what sort of social response there has been to trying to affect change in these various spaces. And each block can have a profile, and that's where the discussion can sort of be elaborated on. So, yeah, the idea behind this is, as I was saying, to engage people. Because I'm sure that everybody in this room has probably walked by an abandoned lot or some rundown property and thought to themselves, why nobody does anything about it. And the fact of the matter is that I'm sure thousands of people have walked by that same exact spot and had the same exact idea, never done anything about it, because there's no central place to communicate these intentions. So I think creating an app like this can really get people to rally together around their ideas and hopefully affect something positive in their neighborhood. Now, there's a lot of challenges to getting something like this off the ground, obviously. What we're working with is city data, city-owned property. So that's something that would need to be discussed, to say the least. And also, it's important to note that proximity and passion are super important elements of making any sort of measurable change in the neighborhood. If you get people up in Logan Square to vote for change down in Inglewood, there's probably not anything that's going to happen. Nobody's going to travel all that way down there to do the work that's necessary to maintain that space. You need to get people in the area engaged and active in that space in order for it to have any sort of lasting change. So that's pretty much the idea in a nutshell. I'd love to have feedback from anybody in the audience as to what you think about it as I presented it, and things that you think would make it better.
I would have a personal interest in that. Like, as I mentioned, I'm developing a program, a platform myself, and I could see something like urban gardens being included as an amenity or asset in the neighborhood. So I would definitely be interested in that.
That is really interesting. I personally have been looking for an urban garden plus community. I would love to sign up and prepaid to help build it myself as a tenant. If there was a way to aggregate that on the site, that might help me create much.
Sure. And to that point, actually, I didn't mention it, but something that this sort of brings to mind, obviously, is the platform Kickstarter. You rally the community around this idea that you want to bring to fruition, and the community itself funds it. And I think something like this could work by the same premise, certainly. Especially if you put some sort of tipping point. So you have a timeline tipping point. I think that's what makes Kickstarter such a successful platform. It's sort of like all or nothing. And I think that same idea could be applied to that.
Actually, that's all city owned, that
I think so. There are people here that can speak to it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's city owned income.
That's what they said you're using. Yeah. So I mean, I think this is a really awesome. I really like the core of this idea. The part that I still trying to figure out the best way to work around is what's the action that can be taken once enough people care about a certain spot, right? City-owned land, so that city has to step in at some point. So I mean, what does that look like to the city, right? I mean, could there be a list of here are the top 10 like most requested that you turn to do, and then the city like addresses those like off the top list? I mean, I don't even know how that process works. But let's
if it's city on land, would it be part of the land bank? Would the gainers project, would that be involved in that at all? Because if it is, you could turn it into a financial thing and say, okay, you've got a plot of land, and you can harvest whatever crop, and it can make $1,000 a year. Well, there's a cost for taxes. If you spend the financial and demand, and you make that high chart of what can grow there and what you can yield, then lots of people.
I'm not sure if what the city did about 15 years ago is no longer in this process, but I was part of a group that was on the south side of Chicago. And on my block, we had 2 urban farms, city blocks that were empty, farms were put there, we got seats for free. There were not-for-profit aids to every neighborhood now lives on the south side. We actually came and did the Indian part of it. We maintained the property by making sure it was water. We went and got people in the block and several blocks around was allowed to go onto the piece of property and get whatever things we thought was needed, fresh fruit, whatever we planted. We as a group met at our block club meetings, and we decided what type of things we wanted to plant that we all thought we could consume. So we planted up the normal people that we ate, like greens and whatever, tomatoes. That's what we planted, some more things. At the end of the summer, it was time to turn it over. We had these the block club type of thing, where we set out the big tables and we went into the garden and we took out everything and put it up there. Whoever wanted to get it, to come and get it for candy, whatever they used it for, materials. But it did not cost us anything other than the labor we put in to make sure it was water and like maintaining and make sure it was we did. But the city did everything else. And there's other organizations that had, I can't think of the name of it now, but they would go and they had like on different corners in the little boxes that they set up. Where inside of a box up high, they had like mini I guess gardens, but there's big plots of land, like a couple houses from me were big lot that would normally hold about 2 houses, 3 houses. That whole space was the garden. And then down from the end of the block, there's another space, not as large. People did a very good job, but people in a southern background, they were from the south, they knew about plants. So of course that was like, natural for them to do. And it worked out very well. I'm not sure why that program stopped, why it wasn't funded. So the fees were free. We had a very good time. Students, young people got to learn about who work from a farming background, and they got to learn how to, go out there and see stuff actually start to see and go to an actual plant itself. So it was very educational for young people also.
Which of you input their whole related programs is a great example of things that have worked. Neighbor space is one, we got to make sure we're plugging through there. Open lands is another. They can do a lot of work with community gardens and green farm program. The city's historically that's because what you'll get into is a question of, hey, who owns the land is unknown, but if you actually want to harvest, you have to probably build raised beds and bring in fresh clean soil. You can't just go plant directly into the soil that's there. So there's an interim step there. But there are a couple of organizations that would love to know about this because you can plug in, and they've been working in some neighborhoods with you because ultimately you need to have an ongoing owner and partner on the ground. So you actually might be able to get some supported interest from them on the content side of potential partnership. If you think about how does that work.
Thinking of that idea, along with your questions to that sort of something action, because obviously this great. There may be something to bridge to get there.
And this isn't like a group show, it's what I'm part of, but I'm doing self-governing groups. Basically, they vote on what to do, and they elect one another collective responsibility in a democratic way. Similarly, without even considering that program like a meetup, let's say you have 10 people who say this is a part of land we're interested in developing that you're describing, and let's say it hits that threshold of 10 or whatever the arbitrary number is, they can create automatically this meetup group or something that the API tie into like a public line, and then they take over in terms of, okay, now this is a platform that we built to organize this, we built to actually affect more detailed change that's not specific to this application, but in the meetups cases to meet up and create every week. But just for your side, okay, 10 people are interested, let's make a meetup, we've got a meetup week. And so just thinking that I'm an interested group and then sending an email at the end of it. This is a new meetup about what you said you wanted to do. Let's go do it now. And then you let that platform kind of take over to achieve some of the organization without a logistical.
Right.
Just an idea.
Yeah, that's a great point, but so the online action to like real life action, it's a real barrier to a lot of times that sort of stops the data and like what next, right? It's a really important thing to think about.
I actually, it's actually a good point that she raised about not being able to plant directly in the soil. I went to a conference in Greentown and they talked about the quality of urban soils, and a lot of urban locations, the soil quality is very poor. This is getting probably far afield of what you're trying to do with your app, but something that you might consider including is some general information about the condition of the lot itself, whether it's full of trash or, I don't know. I mean, that's probably making it work.
No, I think that's a good point. I mean, there are definitely environmental concerns to be taken into account, especially if food is to be produced today. Generally speaking, it seems to be a steadfast rule throughout all of urban agriculture that you should just build on top of it rather than trying to grow in soil or remediate it. It's a very expensive process. So that's definitely something to be taken into account. Some of that can definitely be crowdsourced. People can go there and sort of take photos, upload them so people can see what it looks like. You can give a verbal description of what it is. Probably try and get third parties involved to do soil testing. Take some sample soils and send them off to the lab, so at least that's something that's also public. But to the point, it's very important that you bring in fresh soil if you're going through, because you don't want to risk contaminating anybody's health.
Are you able to get existing plots to show that, these are areas where there's plots, but if you're doing like actual existing plots, right? There's a community already, right? And if not, I'm wondering if you guys know on that scope at all something like Jen, that's kind of program, which you might have to chance of.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, our interest in urban agriculture is actually inspired by a startup that we have called Every Last Morsel. You could think of it like an Etsy for urban farmers. The goal is to connect with micro producers directly with the marketplace. And so we'll be launching that independently next month. And it'd be a great resource to learn on top of that and see who already is growing food there, and what other spaces exist to expand an operation or grow more food.
Thanks.